Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports. I'm Chase Sr. No matter where you are, how you're tuned in, I appreciate you for making today's show a part of your day. Hope everybody out there had a great weekend and your weeks are off to a great start. If you're a Philadelphia 76ers fan and a Philadelphia Eagles fan, check out our coverage on 76ers Now, myself and Chip. We also run that YouTube channel growing up in the Philadelphia area. Diehard Eagles fan, diehard Sixers fan, Daryl Morey in Philadelphia, very active in NBA free agency, and of course the big splash move, signing Paul George. And right now the sports scene in the city of brotherly love, it's electric. Philadelphia Phillies, Philadelphia Eagles, Philadelphia 76ers, and Philadelphia Flyers struggling a little bit over the last several years, but they're on the up and up. Good time to be a Philly sports fan. As for what we're getting into on today's Eagles Now, I want to take a look at 3 players that the Birds could trade ahead of Eagles training camp. First, though, congratulations to all of you, and a thank you to all of you for helping to grow this YouTube channel and making Philadelphia Eagles Now #1 at the entire company. What do you mean, Chase? Well, Eagles Now picked up the most subscribers in the month of June among all NFL channels here at Chat Sports. Our NFL footprint on YouTube as a company is tremendous. We're one of the most viewed. We have some of the largest NFL YouTube channels on the entire planet. So for Philadelphia Eagles Now to pick up the most subscribers, well over 1,000, it was incredible. And if you haven't hit that sub button, do so right now for daily and year-round coverage of the Birds. Now that we flip the page to a new month, it is July 1. I can't believe that it's July already, the 7th month of the year. Are you kidding me here in 2024? Let's dominate the Cowboys report. Last month doesn't mean anything. Those are June results. In July, we're doing a new sub battle between Eagles Now and the Cowboys report. Which channel in the NFC East here at Chat Sports can pick up the most subs? Hit that sub button right now. My goal every day when I put on this headset, hop in front of a microphone, in front of this camera, is to provide you with entertaining, insightful, informative content on the daily that can be thought-provoking, allow you to learn, become a more informed sports fan and Eagles fan. So hopefully you agree with that. You find that to be the case, hit that sub button right now. Let's get the show underway. Why don't we? Chase, stop rambling. Okay, let's talk some Birds here. Philadelphia and Howie Roseman currently with $24.6 million in cap space according to Spotrac. Training camp for the Eagles as we look ahead will get underway on July 23rd. Only a couple of weeks away. Preseason right after that. Regular season after that. We're going to pick up the steam with our live shows, our watch parties, and of course our coverage. And there are a couple of players on this Eagles roster who could get dealt prior to training camp, during training camp, or before the regular season. The most prime trade candidate is cornerback James Bradberry, coming off a very, very bad 2023 season after in 2022, he was a second-team All-Pro and was a great bargain signing for Howie Roseman and this front office as the Birds kind of picked him up off the scrap heap from the New York Giants. Bradberry will turn 31 years old in August, and in 2022 when he was targeted, he gave up a passer rating of 114.3. The Eagles are so deep at cornerback and might not have a spot for Bradberry on their roster, which is why he's one of the trade candidates that we're talking about on today's show. If the Eagles were to move on, it would cost them a pretty penny because of the deal that he signed after the 2022 season when he was named an All-Pro. He has a dead cap value of $15.1 million, but there is a way to massage that number. The Eagles can spread that money out throughout the duration of his contract. If you do trade James Bradberry, the question, of course, becomes, what would the value be? What would you get back? I'm thinking maybe, and I mean maybe, some late-round draft compensation, maybe a 7th round, which could become a 6th, because the career trajectory of James Bradberry has been very interesting, where he's had one good year, one bad year, one good year, one bad year, and maybe a team that's struggling in the secondary could get desperate and trade for Bradberry's services. You look at the year-by-year comparison here. When he was the All-Pro, Eagles made it to the Super Bowl. They were a top 5, top 10 defense statistically in a couple of different categories. He was excellent. Him and Darius Slay were awesome. Overall Pro Football Focus grade of 74.1, coverage grade of 80.2, passer rating of 54.2. He picked off 3 passes on 675 coverage snaps. Then in 2023, he fell off the face of the earth, and it was a precipitous decline for James Bradberry. Overall PFF grade of 56.6, a coverage grade of 54.7, nearly 30 points down. Passer rating doubled to 108.6, one pick on 697 coverage snaps. And I've said this a couple of times, and I do believe it to be valid and true. It's hard to gauge which players were good, which players were bad, because the scheme was so terrible. But the eye test told me that Bradberry was slower, not as physical. He struggled to tackle. He struggled to hold up in coverage, and he just wasn't the same guy. But could the Eagles use these numbers to their advantage? Bradberry's career path has been so interesting, where you look at the defensive grades right there in the middle of your screen, and you see green, yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow. Literally year by year, every year that Bradberry's been in the league, he's had a good year, bad year, good year, bad year. Does that mean that after having a grade of 56.6 in 2023, that he's going to rebound like he did coming off the 2021 season in 2022 when he earned that 74.1 grade? The Eagles might be able to show a team that. They might be able to say, look, Sean Desai was in over his skis. Then we made the awful switch to Matt Patricia, and he was a byproduct of a bad scheme. James Bradberry can still play. Now, I do want to pose this poll question here. Will James Bradberry be on the team to start the year? Type on for he'll be on the roster. Off, he'll be off the roster. And by off, he could be cut or he could be traded. Eagles going to try him out maybe at slot corner, maybe at safety, to see if they could get anything from him, because if they do just outright cut him, they have to eat a lot of that money, which is why a trade obviously would be advantageous for Philadelphia. Trade candidate number 2 for the Birds is running back Kenneth Gainwell. And Kenneth Gainwell is a trade candidate who I would not deal away, but he is entering the final year of his rookie contract. He is a 25-year-old back with some dual threat ability. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's shown to be a successful runner in this league. Not as a number 1, but as a backup. And I like the pass blocking ability in addition to the pass catching ability. But the Eagles are clearly maybe looking ahead and planning ahead at the running back position, because what did the Birds do in the draft in April? They drafted Will Shipley out of Clemson in the 4th round, who has a lot of the same traits and is a very similar build to that of Kenneth Gainwell. The concern in trading him away is Saquon Barkley has an injury history, and the Eagles are a little bit thin at the running back position. So you would become thinner at running back if you trade Gainwell away, because I just don't see how other backs on this roster currently right now are better than the 3 options that you already currently have in Saquon, Gainwell, and Will Shipley. Numbers in his first 3 years since being that draft pick out of Memphis. You know, he comes into the league year 1, and you saw some glimpses there. 68 carries, 291 yards, 5 touchdowns. One thing he has done at a consistent rate is find the end zone. In 2022, Miles Sanders took off, so the carries went down for Kenny Gainwell. 53 gives, 240 yards, and 4 touchdowns. But in the playoffs, he was really, really good. One of the top running backs in the playoffs in 2022. And in the Super Bowl, after Miles Sanders fumbled that ball away, the Eagles pretty much benched Miles Sanders because they trusted Kenny Gainwell a little bit more. And then in 2023, DeAndre Swift had a really good year. Gainwell was up and down, fumbling issues. The carries did go up, a career high there, career high in rushing yards, but the touchdowns did go down because of the brotherly shove and DeAndre Swift. My opinion on this, I just look at Kenny Gainwell as a trade candidate. I don't look at him as being traded. I would not give him away because I'm a little bit concerned at that Eagles running back depth, and I think Gainwell, really good backup in this league, plus he's very affordable. One more trade candidate to get to. First, let's tell you about these Cooper DeJean shirts. Can't wait to see the rookie in an Eagles uniform. John is a word that is synonymous with Philadelphia, part of the fabric of the Philadelphia dialogue. So Dijon is a play on words on that. Get your shirts today, chatsports.com/Dijon. I have not seen these anywhere else. You can get them in Kelly green or in black. Great conversation starter. And then people will be like, oh, Chat Sports, Eagles now, Chase Senior, producer Chip, let's go. And you could say, yeah, best show on YouTube, cuz. Josh Sweat, trade candidate number 3, defensive end for Philadelphia, who certainly had a very interesting offseason for the Birds. He's involved in trade talks at one point, and then he agreed to a restructured contract. He agreed to the restructured contract after he took to Instagram and kind of hinted that maybe his days in Philadelphia were over with like a thank you post. And then what did the Eagles do? They traded Hassan Reddick and they kept Josh Sweat after redoing that deal. And Josh Sweat might be the most like gettable trade asset that the Eagles have and the most valuable trade asset that the Eagles have. When I say gettable, it's like he could be had in a trade. You have Bryce Huff, Nolan Smith, Brandon Graham, Jalix Hunt, Zach Bond. And if the other team were to really go all in on trying to acquire Josh Sweat, the Eagles could say, all right, on an expiring deal, we like what we've seen from Nolan Smith, Bryce Huff. We like where we're at that edge rusher spot. What if a team pays a pretty penny for Josh Sweat? I guess we'll be willing to give him up in a trade. That's what I mean by that. Now, you look at his numbers over the last 4 years, he has really become a successful player development story. From being the number 1 overall high school recruit in his class, tearing up his knee, and then he goes to Florida State, kind of struggled a little bit to find his footing, showed some flashes. Then the Eagles take him a few years ago in the NFL draft, 4th round out of Florida State. He's turned out to be a really good player. And 2 years ago, had that career high, 11 sacks. He was really good and consistently getting after the quarterback. Last year, 6.5 sacks. He really struggled toward the end of the year. But again, how much of it is due to the scheme? How much was it that Sean Desai just did not put these players in a position to succeed, and then Matt Patricia was forced to run a defense that was not his? And because of that, you saw Reddick struggle at the end of the year. You saw Josh Sweat struggle at the end of the year. The Eagles' coverage on the back end was terrible, as Charles Barkley would say, or terrible, man. So for Josh Sweat here, I'd like to see him come back. He's been a really pivotal member of this Eagles defense in recent memory. But if the asking price is too good for a player on an expiring deal, you could say, well, we might not re-sign him anyway. We get some good value back. Let's get some net results back for Josh Sweat instead of just letting him walk for nothing if he were to hit free agency after 2024. So a quick little look at 3 trade candidates that the Eagles could deal away going into training camp here. And I do want to ask you this and leave you with this question. What moves must the Eagles make to improve their Super Bowl odds? I'm talking a trade, free agency acquisition, players making a leap, schematic changes, alterations, adjustments. I want you to put your thinking caps on. Think about this in further detail. Let me know down in the comment section, and I appreciate your thoughts.